What is jazz? Jazz ke mmino o fodisang batho o thobang pelo.
Life is just unimaginable without jazz.
We are trying to say, but we can go back to the way African people used to live.
Because batho ke jazz ke batho.
And jazz ke lefatshe.
Jazz e tlhalosa e kadile es re utlwisisa e kadile ka batho ba nore ne le makgoba the slaves ha go blowiwa mo jazzing anything e blowiwang maqalong a jazz ba le ka go tlhalosa the screams tsene di etsagala mo dikepeng across the Atlantic, the primal screams.
I quite agree with him. I mean, life is just unimaginable without jazz music. It brings together countries and communities around the world each year to celebrate jazz and the role that this genre plays in fostering dialogue, fighting discrimination and promoting human dignity. That's International Jazzday, which is celebrated each year on the 30th of April. Several events have taken place around the world, including here at home. And to help us unpack the events lineup, we are joined via Zoom by Brenda Sisane, who is the Executive Director of International Jazzday South Africa. And with her is Badimo by Jazz saxophonist David Mainline Ngobeni, who is performing in Hamaanskraal this weekend. A very good morning to you too. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning. Thanks for having us. Ngobeni.
All right, Brenda, I'm going to start with you. Now, for someone who may not know it, what is International Jazz Day and what happens in the month of April in relation to this day?
Thank you very much. International Jazz Day is really the day jazz speaks the language of the rest of the world and the world speaks to each other through Jazz Day. And in April, it is the month that builds up from the 1st of April right up to the day International takes place, which is the last day of the month, and which is the day the global concert takes place where artists of the world gather to share with one another the beauty of jazz music, and the world itself plays its own jazz to itself and to its communities. Literally. I hope I've explained it.
Well, you certainly have, and we know that it pays tribute to the beauty of jazz music. But what is it that we're celebrating specifically?
I think jazz music is a music that came out of strife and major challenges, and also because of that, it is a music that is about the triumph of the spirit as a beginning. And I also think it continues to be that because of the nature of the music that allows people to express themselves, that allows for tolerance, for engagement without borders, and for people to respect each other from whichever where they come from. So I believe it's humanity speaking to itself.
Yes. And forming part of the lineup this weekend is saxophonist David Ngobeni, and whom we hope to be joined by in just a moment. But just take us through what events were lined up to mark the 2021 edition of the International Jazz Day.
Wow, it's a tall order because the events take place in 190 countries for starters. So every small event or every big event that considers itself part of the language of the 30th, they register on a global website to say this is what I'll be doing on this day. So there are some exciting events. I particularly loved the fact that the Caribbean bloc, which would be those countries, have come together to talk about the journey of African music or even jazz music within the Latin bloc or even the Caribbean bloc. I've also enjoyed the fact that West African countries came together to also present their own language of jazz, which has happened independently, all these years. I also like the fact that South Africans that have continued to support this day have put out events, be it in townships, be it in formal establishments, be it in informal ways, but also just in celebrating music from people that I've seen groups that I'm part of, for instance, online, that have gone out to put together playlists specifically in celebration of yesterday as International Jazz Day. What I found also interesting is that International Jazz Day is the 30th, and the 1st of May is the beginning of an important month in Africa, which is Africa Month. A lot of people tend to also celebrate, particularly by the shape of a weekend like this, to then morph their celebrations into starting the African chapter or persona of jazz, and others call it Africa Jazz Day. So there's quite a number of events across the country and across the world. There's also obviously the big global concert that has been self-distancing, and they hosted an incredible celebration last night, connecting artists from across the world.
And how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your plans, and how are you working around it?
Yeah, COVID-19 has really been a major challenge and major force firstly for the artist's livelihood across genres of the arts, for starters. But for Jazzday itself, we had to cancel our showcase, which was meant to happen last year, to the rest of the world. And that has also made us stop all plans of trying to bring the world here, especially as we are still uncertain of what it will be, until we know maybe by the end of this year. Only then can we start new plans of saying, how do we revisit our intention to host this global event as South Africans? So that's adversely how it has affected plans. And it continues to do so in the sense that all these celebrations are being marked to consider the COVID regulations across territories. So everybody is doing it with distancing in mind. So there's no live audiences being exchanged. Where they are, they're very limited accordingly with the laws of the spaces where they are.
And the fact that it was declared by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization in 2011 to highlight jazz and its diplomatic role of uniting people in all corners of the globe. It speaks to the magnitude, and the kind of influence that jazz music has, not only on jazz lovers, but on the global citizens in its entirety. Now, what's on the menu for today and tomorrow, Brenda?
For today, we because the theme this year, which is the 10th anniversary, and hence it's being celebrated where it was launched, which was in the United Nations building by the ministers of the world. We in South Africa are responding to the mandate of celebrating the Jazzday community, and we found a very interesting community in the events that are happening, especially where we believe there's not much access to these kind of events. If you go to any city, you might find there's a number of events on offer for people that live within that local network. For people, for instance, in Hamaanskraal, there's this event that has been put together at a community hall, which is a combination of jazz societies, which is also young people in the area, as well as musicians that are going together, and DJs and artists to celebrate this art form. What is interesting about this group is that it's also a form of a study that has been conducted together with the University of Witwatersrand to actually go into the nature of jazz. The band that is going to be featured there, which is Mainline Ngobeni, is a band who has survived solely on selling his product to his audiences. He doesn't distribute to maybe common retail spaces, and when they refer to it, they call it almost like an underground movement. Can you believe that? It's happening in a township. It's where there's no services, for lack of a better word. And the musicians and the artists that buy the work and consume the work, they work together to keep this flame alive. And they're going to put a celebration starting this morning at 10 a.m. up until late this evening with different bands performing. Digger dance is a big story, where you see people dancing to jazz across the age spectrum, particular moves. And this is an age-old tradition of jazz. Yeah. They dress up for the occasion and they show off like that. So this is one of the key celebrations that is happening. There's been events in Rosebank, and all over the place, yeah.
All right, Brenda, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for spending time with us as we indulge in the beauty of jazz music and as it is celebrated internationally today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, we really struggled to get saxophonist David Ngobeni. We really tried our best, and technology failed us this morning. Now, that was Brenda Sisane, who is the Executive Director of International Jazzday South Africa, giving us an insight into this year's event. Now, and as I said, we will hope to be joined by Badimo jazz saxophonist David Mainline Ngobeni, who is performing in Hamaanskraal this weekend. It's 8 o'clock. Time for news.